Hi everyone, welcome on this new episode of the AEN podcast. Today I'm joined by Thembekile Maseko, the Executive Director of the African Youth and Philanthropy Network. Hi, how are you, Thembi?
I'm amazing, Etienne. Thank you for the welcome. Thank you for the invite. Looking forward. I've always been a fan of the AEL podcast and the Youth League, so I'm happy to be here.
Well, be prepared.
Ooh, I am.
Are you ready for my first question, actually?
Ooh, okay, bring it on. Give it to me.
So, Thembi, just to get to know you a bit better, if you were to receive a prize, what would it be for?
Okay, that's tricky because I feel like I'm such an amazing person.
Okay.
Okay, but I think it would be for just how nice I am. Just being a nice person, just being a very accommodating person to other human beings.
Okay, I hope you will be nice with me for the next 20 minutes of the podcast, but that's a real pleasure to meet with you today and to get to know philanthropy a bit better. And actually, let's start with that.
Sure.
How would you define philanthropy to someone who don't know anything about it?
So I won't start with like the textbook definition of it. Rather, I'm going to give you my upbringing, because and how my mother is, who I believe is probably the greatest philanthropist in this world, my bias. But so the way I was raised, there's no moment in my childhood where I remember where we were alone as a nuclear family in the house. There was always aunties, uncles, cousins just visiting, some who needed a place to stay, and my mom would provide that. She would also monthly or every quarter send money and groceries to grandparents to both sides, and she would send those resources. My mom would also, she used to sell. She's like a serial salesperson. And so she realized that in the family, it's not sustainable to just give someone money. And so she trained people to do what she was doing. And so she'd teach them how to do books. My mom can manage bookkeeping way better than me as a director. Like, I still have to go to for tips to her. And so she'd do all of that. And that is kind of the definition of philanthropy. It's the 4 T's. I've given you the 4 T's of philanthropy in just that, which is giving of time, giving of your treasure, giving of your ties, your networks, and giving of your, okay, I've forgotten the other one. But yes, so in definition, philanthropy is altruism. Altruism towards a greater good, wanting to help people better their communities. Yeah, and that's philanthropy in a mainstream definition.
So taking this opportunity to say, thank you, Mommy. We love you.
Yes. She sowed the seeds of who I am now.
And actually, what brought you into this world then? Is it your mom as well?
No, it found me. It located me. I was in youth development. I'm a studied development practitioner. And just one day in a conference, I was actually still working for a communications agency at the time. So I pivoted from my normal career journey. I wanted to understand the CSO's sector from another lens. So I joined communications to see how do we tell the stories of CSO networks and organizations. And so this particular conference, we're planning it. And so now I get to interact with African philanthropists. First of all, I'm like, what is an African philanthropist? What is that? And as the more I was engaging with them and talking to them, one of them approaches and says, actually, would you like to join the network? We kind of need you. We see, can you come in and help us build this network? And I was like, I don't know nothing about it. Are you sure I'm the best person to do this? And they were like, no, we'll teach you. And so that's how I found myself. It found me.
So yeah, you literally fell into this
world. I fell into it.
And actually, what I find very interesting is you're talking about philanthropy, but you're also talking about youth. And how can we reconcile actually youth and philanthropy?
I mean, it comes down to energy and innovation. So mainstream philanthropy, what it has done or what it has always been is rich people in Europe and America just feeling the altruistic need to give to poor countries and communities because they've made a lot of money. And now it's coming to a sense to say young people are doing the same thing, especially here in Africa. They are pulling resources together to fund community projects. They are starting community gardens in a social entrepreneurship model and why aren't they being given a platform and a spotlight to share their work, and we see how and we measure how impactful that work is. So they're doing philanthropy in such innovative ways. I mean, we've been studying African giving practices that have existed that have since time, immemorial, and realizing that there have been so many in Africa, but young people are not actually using those models. They're coming up with new ones. And so that's why the youth element comes in, the energy and the innovation, and just that's just it.
That's very interesting, and I'm actually interested to hear more from you on how do we bring the younger generation, the juniors, in the world of philanthropy? What would you recommend to approach them and get them interested in this world?
I mean, that's been a growing question that I've had internally, because I'm like, there's too many. Currently in our youth network, we have between 24 and 35. Those are our members. So our members is both organizations and individuals. And so it's been a growing question to me to say, why aren't we tapping into the 16 to 23? What's the gap there? Is it because they don't know about philanthropy? They're probably doing it, but don't know that it's actually what they're doing. And so how do we then intentionally go to the communities, go to grassroots level to teach them about it, to show them that, listen, what you are doing is actually more impactful than somebody who's just giving money is doing. And so I think that's how we can reach them through very, very intentional. It's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of time, but really growing the ecosystem of philanthropy, which is why we exist as AYPN. Just grow the ecosystem, make sure the young person in a rural area in Congo knows what it's about and how they can tap into it to better their lives and their community and so forth. Yeah.
So what I hear a lot in what you say is the importance of network. Networking, connecting people, and that's actually how you fell into it yourself. So how would you define this value of network in the world of philanthropy then?
I mean, networking or networks?
I would say both. Maybe start with network and then move to networking.
Because they're kind of two different things. They feed into each other. But so with networking, it's you knowing, for example, the processing, the ecosystem, to say, if I need a project funded, who can I go to? And that's where networking comes in, where you're gonna have to find people who have been in the space longer than you to tap into their knowledge about how you can better your work, and then find people that you can also impact, because it has to be paid forward type of situation with networking, because there's no actual tangible, measurable work that can come. Whereas with networks, I mean, I always say collective power, collective struggle, collective power, collective action. Because if we're in a network, we're all facing the same problems as young people. And I say the youth community. If we're facing the same problems, but if we come together, then we have collective power. And then we have more strength and resources to actually influence policies, decision making, and even programming. And then our action tends to be very innovative and transformative that way, because we're all coming into with one agenda, and we know what we want to do. And so, that's the value of the network.
Very important. So networking, both very important value. And actually, another element that is very important for us at the AEN is actually the term evidence and evidence use. So how would you link the work of philanthropies to the work of evidence use, evidence production? How would you link them together?
First of all, I did not know what evidence was. Evidence research was. Because you always know about research just as a broad umbrella term, but you don't know like the participatory, the evidence, and so because I recently learned about it through the Youth League. And so how that fed into actually my answer in this tells you will answer your question. We realized that there was no knowledge on youth philanthropy. There was nothing written. There was no anything tangible that will help inform us to as AYPN to say, okay, if we're going to do a project, where are we starting? Do we have people on the ground? What are they doing? Are they giving or are they receiving? What are those dynamics looking like? And so we reached out to the Youth League and to help us with that research project, and I was like, oh, so this is what evidence is. And so I guess that's where it's very important and where it comes in to say, to inform us as practitioners to make better informed decisions on the ground, where you say, okay, here's what's happening. There's this many young people in this area. These are the issues they're facing. These are the funding processes that they have to go through, the funding relationships also that they're going through, and some of the community problems. And we can then take that, synthesize it and look at it and say, okay, what do we do about this? Because as a network, then we have more connections on the ground and say probably they're facing climate change. And so we look into our members all who are all doing climate change, focusing on climate change, and say, okay, this is the problem. Let's all find a collective solution to it. And so I guess that's how evidence and philanthropy feed into each other to make better informed, best practices for giving. Yeah.
And so what is coming next? What is next for you? What are the upcoming project, exciting activities for 2025?
2025 is going to keep me so busy. I'm like trying to stay in 2024 as long as I can. But we do have a youth-led community foundations program that we want to launch. So what that's going to look like is we don't want to be the grantors, because at Pan-African level, we are not connected to the issues on the ground. We're not very connected. And so let's train young people, 50 young people from 10 different countries, to establish community foundations that we will fund. We'll take them through training so that we very intentional about the leadership development also, and then give them catalytic grants after their training, provide them with mentors in the community foundation sector, and then watch them as they implement that, so they can then sub-grant to the initiatives in their communities and see how that process is going. And so that's one project I am looking forward to. The other one that's been growing quite well is we have this webinar podcast series happening. It's called the Reimagining Africa. And so that's a platform where we're like, okay, young people have a lot of ideas on how to fix the continent, and they're already working on them. Most of us are now the project managers, some of the directors. We are in the positions of influence. And I was like, I know a lot of young people now because you go to all these conferences and you see who's being keen and who's keen doing what. And so I was like, okay, all of you come, talk to you, bring your topics, unpack them. And they unpack them themselves. I'm like, I'm not involved. You bring your person, 1 or 2 people. You guys talk about, I know the last one was on human rights and activism and digital activism and stuff. And find the intersectionality. How can then we help you? But then discuss about your work, and then let's see the synergies there. And this series will help inform future projects and future knowledge building for us as AYP, and so we know where to start. And so those are two of the exciting things for 2025.
That's an exciting time coming for you then.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Brace yourself, it's coming for you.
Zen Husa.
Well, thank you so much, Thembi, for talking to us about philanthropy, about youth, about Africa, about evidence, so many topics that we cover here in the AN podcast. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us also online, and hope to see you very soon on another episode of the AN podcast.